Hey everybody, welcome to the latest episode of the Rock Experience with Mike Brunn. On this episode, we'll be discussing the return of Kiss, touring in 2021. Joining me on this episode will be Vincent LaRussa, and it's a lot of fun talking about getting to see Kiss at their first show back in over a year. I think you guys are going to really enjoy this conversation. We had a lot of fun, so let's jump in and let's get started. Hey everybody, welcome to the latest episode of the Rock Experience with Mike Brunn. Today I'm excited to have with me, as I used to call him, my partner in crime. Now he's the chemist and has been for about a year. Please welcome to the show, my buddy, Vincent LaRussa. How you doing, my friend?
I almost was thinking that I was no longer the chemist when you said I used to call him. I'm like, oh shit, is there a name change?
Oh no, there's no name change.
Not in my contract. I did not approve if there was, but
That's right. No, yeah. I figured it's always good to reminisce.
Yeah, I love to reminisce.
I don't like to forget the original days, right? So especially since we spent, what was it, 12 hours together on Wednesday going to the show,
and survived it.
Exactly. So yeah, for those who don't know,
especially after I ate those onion rings.
Thanks. It's kind of lunch I needed you to have.
Well, hold on, for the record, that wasn't my lunch. I didn't sit there and eat a basket of onion rings.
You should have. Just nothing but onion rings the whole time. That's what you should eat the entire day. In the car, while we're at the concert, the entire day, you should just eat onion rings. When we stopped for a snack, you should have got like the bag of onion rings.
We had a ring toss, like
exactly.
What's that game they play? What's that thing?
I don't know what it's called, but I know what you mean.
You know what I mean.
Yeah.
They played it on the Brady Bunch.
Yep, that's right.
Okay.
All good stuff. But yes, obviously what we're referring to is on Wednesday was the start of or I should say, picking up the end of the road tour, right? The start of the newest leg of the end of the road tour.
Is it the continuing the road tour?
I think it's the continuing the road tour. That's right. Okay, exactly. Right. And you and I were fortunate that it was a 3 or 4 hour drive from where we live. So for you it was 4, for me it was a little over 3. So we were able to attend the first show back. And all I could keep thinking of that whole day is, and I don't know if you remember this, in 1979. It's a good name of a song. We should write a song called 1979.
We should.
Nobody has a clue what we're talking about right now. So, but in 1979, that one day, when Kiss put out the Dynasty album, the commercials at the time were, "Don't miss the return of Kiss. Don't miss. It's been 2 years since the last studio album." And the whole day I had that commercial playing in my head, because I think it had been 16, 17 months from the time of their last show to this one. I'm not counting the Dubai thing, and I know they did the thing in New York City as well, but this is the first proper concert in 16, 17 months. And all day long I kept just thinking to myself, don't miss the return of Kiss. So whatever, that's just
you never mentioned that to me. All those 12 hours of that ride, you didn't tell me that at all.
In the car ride, yeah, I don't know why I didn't mention it, but when I made my post on Facebook, because I went live for the first couple of songs, that's what I use as my header. Don't miss the return of Kiss, because that's just what was on my mind. But no, we were too busy going through every song from the last 20 years and determining if not even just Kiss songs, these are just the top 20 songs on Billboard for each year, and whether or not it was a classic or not. So that's what we did to take up our time.
That was my activity for you or for us.
That's right.
And that's kind of like we always talk about when you started doing this stuff. This is like what we always would do. We would rate songs, we would rate albums, but maybe we'll release that as a future date for a podcast or something like that.
The top 20 songs, and if it was a classic or not.
Yeah, I don't know.
We could do that. I mean, we'll see. We will see. I think we might put a few people asleep on it, but we had fun doing it, so that's all
Yeah,
that
we had
mattered.
fun.
You
Yeah.
know. But today is Friday, so it's a couple of days
Right.
after the show. And I know you and I got together on Tuesday to kind of talk a little bit about what we were expecting from the show.
Mm-hmm.
So what I want to do right now is bring out Wayne and Garth from Wayne's World, and maybe go back in time for a moment, and just you could kind of hear in some of the thoughts that we had. So I know you appreciated this when I did this originally, right? So let's bring in Wayne and Garth and go and go back in time. So you ready? I brought us back into Tuesday, buddy. Right?
Boy.
So I knew you'd appreciate those great sound effects, right? It's a lovely thing
Yes.
to have.
Yes.
So obviously the concert at this point hasn't started yet. We're doing this part of our conversation Tuesday afternoon, the day before the show. It's like 5:15 in the afternoon. And I thought it would just be a good idea to kind of, what do we expect beforehand and kind of compare to actually what happened. So some of your thoughts and comments. What is it that you expect from this first show back?
Well, I don't know about expecting or just I'm kind of curious about because, they had a significant amount of time off. Paul's had, some time to rest his voice. If this is going to be the first show of them coming back, I'm just kind of curious for all the other shows that we saw them of
Mm-hmm.
kind of how he's going to sound in comparison to where they left off. Because I think we've seen them pretty close to when they were, obviously the world kind of shut down. I
Yep.
think it was the February of 2020 that we went to that last show in Philadelphia or Scranton or whatever the heck
And
we
I
went.
actually went to Los Angeles like
Right.
5-6 days before they shut down. So
Yeah.
I was at that Kobe Bryant show right after he passed away, which seems like a
Yeah.
lifetime ago at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I think it's more of like an excitement, like, wow, last week I actually went to a concert. I saw Green Day and Weezer. Actually, Green Day did Rock and Roll All Night while I was there. So this will not be the first time I see Rock and Roll All Night performed in concert since the pandemic, which is very bizarre. But I know you and I were looking at tickets. I was surprised that the tickets, there's still lots of seats available. So it'll be interesting to see tomorrow night when we get there if those seats are all filled up.
Yeah. And the thing is, as I'm just sitting here just thinking about tomorrow, you know, like Paul Stanley always says, like, how he says, like, life is like a flower and life is like a thing. And, he always goes into those things.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying he actually, don't quote me on those. But I feel like it's like another gift we're getting to see this band, because I think there's going to be, obviously, for us and many Kiss fans, a day of, wow, we can't see this band anymore, and I'm just taking that in right now and just thinking about, like, man, we're going to go see them again. You've seen them a lot more times than I have, although over the past 10 years, I've seen them a significant amount of times, courtesy of you.
Yeah.
But, I think that's the thing I'm really excited about is that we're going to see them again and not knowing when yet the tour is going to, or their last show is going to be, that still hasn't been announced. So I'm just very thankful that, my favorite band of all time, I'm still have the ability to see them, even if it's in another state. It's
Yeah.
we always make the effort to see, our band, and
Yeah. As you're
it'll be
talking,
great.
I'm thinking about this. Technically, the tour would have been over without a pandemic,
Yes.
right? So the tour would have ended a couple of
Right.
weeks ago. So there would have been no more shows, theoretically speaking, at this point. I do think, I know they just recently announced the Vegas thing. I think they'd still do those kind of things, but there'd be supposedly no more tours.
Well, you think they're going to do, you think after they say no more tours, they're still going to do a Vegas thing?
Yeah, I think they can do Vegas. I think they'll do the cruise. I think they'll do things like that.
Oh,
That's just my gut
interesting.
feeling. But there'll be no more
Interesting.
tours. That just a guess. I can't see them ever just 100% saying I'm not going to do anything ever again. But look, who knows? Who knows? So what do you think about set lists tomorrow night? Do you think we're going to get the same set list?
I think there might be one song variation. I mean, they were doing that. They were taking what they brought Crazy Nights in, and was it Parasite?
They brought in Parasite and
Yeah,
Tears Are Falling right
Tears Are
before.
Falling.
Yep.
It'd be nice to hear one of the, because what we're gonna hear. It's again, the show is highly planned. Everything's orchestrated from the lighting and stuff like that. The days of just being able to mix up a set list with everything that they do in production, even though, well, you can say, well, they had so much time off, but it's going to pretty much be the same set list, probably 95% or 97% or whatever the number is going to be. Maybe one or two song variation. That would be awesome if there was some variation.
I'm
Of the
actually
set
hoping
list.
that they, I know on New Year's Eve they, at a spur of the moment did Strutter. I'm hoping
Yeah.
that actually finds its way into the set list. They could drop to You Love Me. I don't care if I ever hear that song or see that song again. It's not a classic to me. Strutter is. So I'm hoping that that song gets added to the set. But I'm with you. I think it's pretty much going to be the same set. It'll be interesting to see after the fact if we're right or
Yeah.
wrong.
It's funny. You and I have talked about this offline, and just like a slight segue of songs. Recently I've had to, actually got assigned to do a Kiss project where I have to record it for an artist and do the music. And one of the songs he chose was Mr. Speed, and I never realized how great that song is. And man, I think I would have to be diapered up if they like launched into a Mr. No, obviously they're not going to do that.
Right, right.
But I just never. I mean, you listen to the albums, but when you kind of really listen to the songs and you learn it on guitar, bass, and drums, like what I have to do, it really is something like, these songs that are like the hidden gems that they have on these records, and the fact that they got to do one of your favorites, the Cold Gins and the War Machines, man, those cruise shows that you've been able to see so many of them, it really must have been awesome to see those performances of those other, what do they call them?
Deep cuts.
The deep cuts,
deep
yeah,
cuts.
and the deep cuts, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
slight, segue there, but Kiss related, and just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think that it'll probably be at most one song. It'll be interesting to see if there's any changes at all. And obviously, we just found out in the last few weeks that Dave Lee Roth won't be opening up the shows anymore. And I don't know if you saw it today. There's this article. Gene was bad mouthing Dave, and let's not even get into that because that could be a whole nother episode. But
yeah, I didn't know anything about that, but I am disappointed in that because when we saw Dave, I think we both walked out there with like, wow, we were really surprised on how good Dave sounded, and the band sounded great, and we were thoroughly excited about that performance. So
agreed. Have you ever seen The Painter? You've seen The Painter before, right?
Yeah. I think. I think maybe it was the first show I checked out the whole thing, but then kind of like once I saw it, I mean, it's an amazing thing that he does.
Yep.
But I would much rather see, no disrespect to what he does, but I would love to see another band play.
Agreed, especially somebody like Dave. But
yeah.
Well, we will see. We will compare now our thoughts. I think we're both just excited to be going in with little expectations of seeing a different show. I think you and I have no intention necessarily of getting in there until the last possible minute to go see Kiss perform. I don't know.
Yeah.
With everything going on still with COVID, I don't feel a necessity to be packed in there any longer than necessary.
Well, that's the other thing. Yeah. I mean, I've kind of thought about that. The other thing is, and I don't know if you made any thought about this because you usually do more than I do when it comes to the merch. I don't know if there's going to be any new merchandise, if there's going to be any amendments to the tour book, because they've done that.
I've heard there is. Yep, I heard there is.
Yeah, so I know you'll probably be a monster and probably, be buying a whole bunch of things, or maybe not. But
I'm hoping they have merch that is like welcome back, or we're back, or something, something acknowledging that the tour was postponed for a year and a half. If there's something that's really like special for the show, and I don't just mean a city shirt, but if there's something special that says, hey, it's the first real show we're doing in a year and a half, I'm 100% in. Take my money right now. I'm in. Otherwise, I don't know.
Well, however, when they had the city shirts, did they have dates on them?
I don't think so. I remember it had the city name up on top in like block letters. If I remember the shirt right, there's like a whole map of the world. Maybe there's tour dates on the bottom. I never bought them. I didn't love the shirt, to be honest with you.
I thought you got the Madison Square Garden one, though.
The Madison Square Garden one was unique. Yes, that was a whole unique print. And so, again, if they do something unique like that to acknowledge, hey, first show back in a year and a half, I'm in 100%. If there's a poster, if there's a T-shirt, I am in. So it'll be curious to see. Make sure we talk about that when we go back to, doing this afterwards.
Well, the reason why I say that, because I don't know, the date kind of, I don't know, something is on that date tomorrow.
Not 24-hour premature there.
Oh, that's right. Oops.
There you have it, friends.
Yeah.
Everybody now sees he doesn't know when my birthday is. Oh, man. No, you're right. My birthday is the following day. And that's, I think, part of it also for me. Is like,
well,
hey,
that was kind of my point of why originally you wanted to go because you said for a show back, and also it's for my birthday, and then and I was like, oh, that sounds like fun. Maybe I want to join you. And then and you were like, really?
Yeah.
Like, as this is your surprise after all these years.
No, we'll get some nutrients. We'll make it a fun day.
Yes. Yes.
So then why don't we cut back to now the current, and we'll talk about those nutrients, and we'll talk about the concert and see how the experience actually compares to what we thought beforehand.
All right, do your thing.
All righty, so now we're back from the future, my future. All right, I got
Marty McFly.
I got Marty McFly with me right now. So there you just heard some of our comments and some of our thoughts before the concert as to what we were hoping and thinking would happen at the concert. So before we even talk about the concert itself, let's just talk for a moment about the arena, the parking situation, and all of that. What were your thoughts on the place, just in general, having never been there? What's so funny? You still thinking of Wayne and Garth?
I didn't know I was going to have to review the arena, but okay.
Yes, I want to know what you thought about the arena. I haven't never been there. The whole parking situation and all of that.
Well, I mean, again, we didn't know what to expect. It was relatively easy going in. I mean, it was, your usual concert line. Mm-hmm. We were able to grab dinner before, which was joyous. Yes. And the interesting thing was about that whole parking situation was when we finally get in and we're trying to navigate and understand what's going on, we understand that, okay, there's nobody in the middle lane because it says VIP parking. So we'll just keep on going. And we keep on going, and we keep on going. And you think, and I know, like, for other venues are gone, if you keep going, you're going like way, way beyond whatever the arena, the venue is. So we finally, as we think we're getting close, we see a woman there, and you ask, what's the situation with the parking? And she says something like, well, it's $50 to park here, and it's free parking continues. You can just keep going straight. And we're like, all right, we're not paying $50 from parking.
Right.
Millionaire, but I'm not paying $50 for parking, just on principle, right?
Principle, exactly.
So we keep driving. And then finally we get into where the parking lot is. They, what they usually do, you can't just pick a spot, they direct you. And we park and we look over and we see a fence. And we get out of the car and we literally, what did we walk? 50 feet? 100 feet?
Exactly.
And we're walking into the place. I'm like, so VIP parking and/or, paid parking, would we have gotten any better than this?
No, and then that's why I asked you about this. I wanted to see, because, one of the things I want to say here, Vin and I decided, even though we had a 97-hour car ride to back home, we didn't talk about that night at all because we wanted it to all be fresh in this conversation. So
absolutely,
we have no idea what either one of us are thinking about from that night. I know it seems crazy. And at one point we called my wife, and my wife was like, oh, on the car ride home, she's like, how was the show? And we're like, we can't talk about it. And she's like, what? You can't talk about it? I'm like, nope, we're going to do it on a podcast. And we want it to all be fresh and not know the reaction. So that's why I asked you about the parking and the arena, because to me, that was just one of the most bizarre things, right? You could pay $50 to be a 10-minute walk away from the arena, or you could park for free, right? 50 feet away.
Right.
Right. Which one should I do? That was bizarre. Right. So, but I wasn't complaining because we got an excellent parking spot for free, but that was one of the weirdest parking situations I've ever seen at a concert before.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I'll just continue. And then we went into the place, and you're infamous for this. Let's see if we could upgrade our seats. And we went in, we investigated into that, even though we had, as it turned out, good seats. We thought for what we paid, we got our money's worth. At least I thought that. I think you agree.
100%. Right? No, I agree. 100%.
So at one point, we were speaking with this young lady about, doing the upgrade, and she's like, "No, you're not going to get better than what you have." And I don't know if you asked or I asked, "How is it getting out of here?" And I forgot exactly what she said. She was like, "It's miserable. It's brutal." It was like, throw the adjective out there,
Right. Exactly.
And we were like, all right, because we knew we had a 4-hour ride going home. And then, of course, I busted your chops pretty much from that point forward.
Of course.
So you're a classic. And, I've been on one cruise with you, but you walk in and it's like somebody doing forensics on the place. You're looking at where the lights are, where the emergency exit is, where the popcorn is, everything. You just, I see you like this. You're walking around and this is you. It's as if you're robotic, right? So we get to where our section is.
Well, let me pause you there for a moment.
Okay,
right? So one of the reasons I do that is, number one, I always like to know in case of an emergency how to get out of a place, right? That's been like that now for like 20 years. But number two, also when I'm going someplace new, I like to take it all in. And to me, this was a shed, as they call it. And the shed near me is Jones Beach. And this place was so different than Jones Beach. There's a lot of grounds all around it. And there's a whole place, like when you walk through, there's different food and the merch stuff. And I was like, it's kind of like, I kind of thought it was a cool vibe, you know. So as cheap as the parking situation was, although it did turn out cheap and good, I thought the whole inside was like really, I liked it. So that's part of what I'm doing as I'm looking around. I'm like, all right, safety exits. Oh, food's over there. That's cool. And I'm kind of like taking it all in.
Yeah, it was closer to PNC Bank Arts Center. I don't know if you've ever been there, but that's what it's kind of like, felt like it was modeled after, or maybe PNC was modeled after that.
Right.
So when we got to where our section was, we were saying, because there were like seats outside of the section, and I guess they were for handicapped. I'm like, man, if we sat here, it would probably be pretty cool, you know? And then I said, let me go see what it looks like down there. And it was actually closer than I thought, because I think we were okay. So if you do the alphabet, I think that's around 10 rows in.
Right.
And so then I came up and I was like, you know, definitely come down. And you were like, yeah, they just kicked me out of here anyway. You know.
Right. And I want to give a shout out to the guy who works there, right? Because like you said, they kicked me out.
We don't know his name.
I don't know his name, but it was a younger kid. I'm going to say 20 years old or so that was working there. And he came over and he's like, you know, hey, I'm really sorry. There's the handicap spot. You're going to have to leave. And I knew I was waiting for you to come back. And I was like, hey, do you mind just giving me 2 or 3 minutes? And so my friend comes back. He's like, I'm sorry, I can't. And he's like, I'm really sorry, but you have to get up. And I was like, no, don't be sorry. You're doing your job. And he looks at me. He's like, wow, thank you so much. And it's like, you know, he was so nice. So I want to give a shout out to him, because it wasn't like he came over like a jerk, like, you don't belong here, get up. Because it was obvious I'm not handicapped. I didn't belong there. But it just, well, you know, handicapped for different reasons. But you know, so, but it just kind of reminds me, in the world, having not been to concerts like this in quite a while, you know, when you're interacting with people and you're nice, you give what you get in life. And here was, this guy was nice to me. I was nice to him. And he was just so appreciative back. It's like, oh, I really appreciate you saying that I'm doing my job. I said, you're doing your job. I don't belong here. I'll get up. And it was just like a nice little interaction that has nothing to do with the show itself, but I thought it was kind of cool.
But, you know, because usually you probably have, you know, some guy who's like, you know, I'll stay home over here. We just hang out here, man. You know, you know, oh, what the fuck? They probably deal with a lot of that nonsense. You know?
Of course, absolutely.
People who are, nothing against people who drink or do whatever they're going to do, but
not at all.
You know, they probably they appreciate that, and it is nice. It is nice to hear that. I didn't witness it. You could be making it up, but I'm gonna take your word on that.
No makeups, no makeup. So before you talk about us now, get into the seats and then the show started, we did stop and look at the merch, right? I didn't buy anything. You didn't buy anything. What were your thoughts on the merch?
I thought it was underwhelming, I guess, is that the word? I didn't see anything that was new. Maybe the shirt was slightly different variation, but nothing really grabbed me on the merchandise. We don't know for sure, and I thought you might investigate this, and I'm kind of surprised you didn't, about the tour book, because I know you're, you know, infamous with that.
The answer. You know? Got the answer for you. So I knew going in there was going to be a new variant of the tour book, right? I think it's the 6th version now of the tour book.
Wow.
And I just decided, you know, I've got the first 5. I was like, nah, I don't need version number 6. Enough is enough. And actually what they did is, on one of the pages on the top of a photo, it originally had the final day, like July 17th, 2021 is the final Kiss show. Now it just said like end of the road tour, 2019, 2021, and 22. And that was it. That was the one and only change in the entire book. So I'm like, I'm glad I saved my $40, because how many different variants? And I know that's sacrilege to some people. And believe me, I've got like 60 or 70 different tour books in my closet behind me. I get it. But 6 versions of this one tour book, to me, that's disappointing that that's the only change after a year that they put in there.
Yeah. Well, I'll agree with you then, because I didn't know that. But knowing the information now, you know, they, I guess they could have made it a little bit, you know, more interesting.
Yeah. And look, I told you beforehand, and you saw on the pre-video that we did, if there was merch that was specific to this show, welcome back type stuff, not welcome back Carter, but welcome back to, you know, touring or whatever. Although welcome back Carter might have been pretty good.
I would have bought that.
I know. But you know, I would have been all in. They had a poster there that had like all the new fall tour dates, whatever. That doesn't get me excited. I really wish they had something specific for this first show back. I know when we were at the show, I saw somebody wearing a shirt that looked like it potentially could have been like a unique type of thing, but I haven't seen it anywhere else. So I'm going to guess I was just wrong. It was a few rows ahead of me. Yes, they had this tour specific shirt that said like Mansfield on it, just like they've done for all the other shows. That didn't excite me. I kind of wish it was something that acknowledged that this is the first show in 16, 17 months.
Yeah. But, yeah, I agree.
Oh, well.
Yeah. That didn't take away from the experience at all. I'll say that.
Exactly. It was still a rocking experience. See what I did there?
I see what you did there.
All right. So we didn't watch The Painter. I know there was obviously the announcement that Dave wasn't going to be there. I think you and I are equally disappointed that Dave wasn't there. And obviously there's been a lot of news the last 48 hours about things Gene said. And now Dave responded today. I'm just like, I don't even want to get involved in that. Whatever. It's too much drama, needless to me. But I think we were both disappointed that Roth wasn't there. Nothing against The Painter, right? We didn't even watch him. I've seen him before. He's very talented. I would have rather see David Lee Roth that night.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I totally agree. Because we did see him at that one show, I think in Philadelphia, and we thoroughly enjoyed that. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
And it was Allentown, just to make sure that we fact check that. That's right. Billy Joel came out as well. But all right. So finally, the moment we had been waiting for. Your doorbell to ring. That's the moment we've been waiting
for. Nice cue.
I know you like that. Here is the moment we've been waiting for. Please welcome to the show. Gene Simmons will be walking to the
imagine
door.
That. David Lee Roth comes in.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh,
that was something. I'm just checking. It actually is a ghost. Nobody's there. I'm checking my front door.
Okay, that's great. All right. That's hilarious. So finally, the moment that evening that we were waiting for, the Kiss show. And I know I went live the first two songs. I think you did as well, even though we didn't talk about that. Either one of us were going to do that. And I went back and watched my video. And as they're coming down, the curtain drops and they're coming down, I hear you say, "This never gets old." And I'm like, that's awesome. that's awesome that that's your response. You've seen Kiss at least a dozen times over the years, if not more. I know I've been 70 plus shows. And that was my first thought as it starts. This never gets old. And just hearing you say it on the video was to me kind of cool. But again, we haven't spoke about this. I'm really curious. I know one thing that's going to have irked you about the show. I know it. I'm waiting for you to say it. So I'm not going to be able to tip my hand here. But what were your thoughts on the show?
Overall, I felt that it sounded like the year plus off that he had from doing concerts. Even in between the songs when he would do his raps, there were some times where he would do that and it would sound rougher in the past.
Mm-hmm.
I thought overall Paul sounded better.
Yep, agreed.
I definitely the musical performance, all the other bits, as far as the drum parts, the guitar parts, that basically was all on par from everything else I've seen previously on the tour. Right. There wasn't anything really different. It's not like I was like, ooh, this is a new thing that Gene did. I think there was one song I forgot. I heard a lick that he put in one of the songs, like, "We always love and loud. I want to hear it loud." Right? He does this little, yeah.
I'll airplay that bass thing every time. I love that.
But I noticed he had done it in another song, and I would have to probably look at the list, and I do have the set list over here that I heard him do something, and he might have done it before.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought the musical performance was great. I didn't hear any mistakes. I didn't hear anything. The sound was a little weird from where we were sitting. This is just us sitting. There was a lot of low end, sometimes the definition of certain things. However, when we started walking around, I noticed there was at some points it sounded better.
Interesting.
And that's just a proximity thing.
Right.
Just a little bit more clarity of that boominess that I didn't hear.
Interesting. Okay.
But musical performance was great.
Yeah. The only thing, before you go into your next thought, the only thing I remember, I commented to you about it that night, I think it was Deuce, where Stanley's guitar was just pretty much non-existent in the mix, I know he starts off playing the opening riff of the song. You heard that. But I remember when Tommy was doing the solo, I was like, you don't hear any of Paul's guitar. And it's not like I looked to see if he was playing, and he was playing, you could see him strumming, and it sounded like it was pretty much a three-piece band at the time with Stanley just like walking around on stage.
Yeah, I mean, that can be a perspective thing just from where we're sitting.
Yep.
You know, it definitely changes as you move around the arena.
Yep.
So, or it could have just been a technical issue at that point in time. You know, who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
You know?
I didn't
Maybe the
notice it
power
any
went
other
out.
song that night, but I happened to notice it during Deuce. But
yeah,
you know, so obviously with the time off, we spoke about we were hoping that they would add at least one song to the set list. I think both of us were pulling for Strutter. Didn't happen, you know. So I'll say that was a little bit of a disappointment. The overall set list, and I know you're looking at it right now. What were your thoughts that evening with that?
I mean, I thought it was interesting. They shuffled some stuff around, caught us by surprise.
Yep.
I enjoyed you playing, you know,
name that song.
Into your crystal ball, like
Yep.
predicting, and you were, I think you wrote about 80%.
I think I got every Gene song coming up right before they said which one it was going to be, which was, I'll say, surprising because, like you said, they shuffled it around a little bit. But I was like, all right, here comes I Love It Loud, and then they'd start doing that, and you'd look at me like, how? I was like,
yeah,
lucky guess. Here comes Calling Dr. Love, and then you're like, this one's off Rock and Roll Over, and you'd be like,
yeah,
I don't know.
It was a little weird. I mean, I think, you know, if we could talk about it, Detroit, they were open with Detroit Rock City, Shout Out Loud, and then War Machine. I was like, wow, this is an odd choice for a third song.
Agreed.
And you could tell me, what was the third song they used to do?
Deuce.
Deuce, yeah. Which
by the way, the second night they went back to doing Deuce third.
Yeah. So and so they moved Deuce all the way down to 17 songs, which I don't think that's a good spot for that song.
Agreed.
Neither do I think War Machine. And then the other thing was War Machine. That's when he usually breathes fire, right?
Right. Exactly.
And he did it, and so he's doing it like, you know, what did he do? He did it 2 more songs. They did Heaven's on Fire and I Love It Loud, and he breathes fire. I'm like, I love it loud, breathing fire. War Machine is a better song. I just think, you know, telling the story, you know, whatever.
Yep, agreed.
I don't know. It was just odd why they changed that. I don't know why.
Look, I give him an A for an effort for trying to do something different. I could understand somebody looking at it on a piece of paper saying, oh, it's the same set list, just mixed up, who cares? When you were there that night, as we were, it kind of did make it a little bit like, hey, what's going to come next? Even though I kept guessing right, it did make it a little bit like, hey, what's going to come next? And if you remember, after they did War Machine, and I turned to you and I said, hey, that's the song Gene usually breathes fire in. And then I made my incorrect prediction of the evening. I said, I bet you they brought Firehouse back. Because I was like, what other songs are you going to be breathing fire in? And I was convinced those first few songs, they're going to bring Firehouse back because that's where Gene's going to breathe fire, and that'll be good. There'll be something new in the set list. Yeah. And then, you know, they go into I Love It Loud. And I was convinced right after I Love It Loud was going to be Firehouse. I was convinced. And all of a sudden at the end of I Love It Loud, I was like, what? This is weird. It just seemed a little weird to me, like you said, and disappointing because I was like, well, there goes Firehouse. That's not happening. You know?
Yeah, I agree. And then we get the Lick It Up after that. And I'm going to say this, you know, however many years ago they started with this Won't Get Fooled Again, it was cool. But please, enough of it. You know, that's my personal opinion. Throw another song.
Yes.
I mean, how long are they spending on Lick It Up?
Probably 6-7 minutes.
Right, easily, right?
Yeah.
I want you. I want another song. I need another song. You know what I mean? Come on. And it was, like I said, it was cool when they and I seen Def Leppard open a show doing that.
Yes, it was great.
Which to me was cooler. I got to be honest.
Yeah.
But I just wish they would just. And I guess again, we got to start, or we got not start. We got to think about the person who's seeing Kiss for the first time. That might be the coolest experience. Whoa, they're doing. So I think a lot of times when we speak and we give our opinions on things, we're not considering someone like yourself who's seen them 7 zillion times on this tour. You know, and I've seen them a half a zillion times. You know, so,
exactly.
But I just wish there would be a different or an add-in song and just cut that.
Yeah, I remember that night when they were doing that because you and I have the same opinion on this. I spoke over to you and I said, hey, you know, the week before I had seen the Green Day Weezer concert, and Weezer had done a number of times like 2/3 of a song, and then they cut out like the last verse and they just bang go into another song. Yeah. And I remember during that time, I was like, it would be nice instead of like the Won't Get Fooled Again drum stuff that he's doing, which is cool. It was cool the first 70 times I saw it. But I said to you that night, I said, how cool would it be? I was like, how cool would it be instead of like from Won't Get Fooled Again if it was and then it went right into Strutter. I was like, that to me would be much cooler as a Kiss fan. I see the fans there, they get into it, they like it, they clapping, woo, you got the lasers going on. Yeah, so I get it. But to me, instead of that drums for Won't Get Fooled Again, I want to hear the drums for Strutter at that point and go bang right into Strutter. They add the other song. You cut the last 3 minutes out of Lick It Up that, you've played the song for all intents and purposes. Bang, go into Strutter. I know they're not going to cut out Lick It Up. It's a classic from the non-makeup years. I don't expect them to cut it out. I wouldn't mind if they did, but I don't expect them to. But you cut off that last part and go right into another song. I suggest Strutter. If somebody's listening, please follow up with that, please.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I agree. And then we have Dr. Love. Never get tired of hearing that song.
Always
never get tired. And then Say Yeah. At this point, I say no. I think, again, I understand they want to try to get something from that period and they're covering their entire catalog, but we were talking the other night. Imagine they broke out with like Come On and Love Me, right. She, or whatever. I mean, they got so many great songs.
Yep.
To me, in my opinion, that surpassed, a Say Yeah. Yep. But I understand why they're doing it. This is my personal taste and preference. Yep. I thought it was cool when, I think you had asked me, like when you first heard them do this live, what did you think, or something like that?
When we were driving there, we were talking about that they probably still have it in the set list. Yeah. And I actually, because you weren't a huge fan of the 2 new albums, and I said, "Oh, has your opinion changed on Say Yeah?" So now go ahead. Yeah.
So Say Yeah. Yeah. So say, I'll say yeah. That when they first started doing it, I was like, oh, you know what? Song's better than I thought it was, because I honestly listened to that album once. I'm like, okay, never listen to this again. Right. I just was not happy with that record at all. Because I just felt like it was like, and it was mostly no fault of Tommy. It was like blatant, like every solo tried to sound like Ace Frehley, and I'm just like, Anyways, but yeah, I thought hearing it live, I was like, wow, this is a really good song. And then speaking of Tommy, they start going into Cold Gin,
which is my nap time.
Yeah, which was your nap time. And kind of like when he starts the solo and he starts doing that signatures, Ace thing, and I just looked at you and I'm just shaking my head. It's just, I don't have a problem with the wearing the makeup and all this other stuff, but to me, that's just so blatant.
Right.
I just still have a problem this day with him doing that signature. Like that improvisation. Yeah. The whole thing with the fireworks, with the guitar and that whole thing, all cool. Yep. I know Ace used to do that too. I have no problem with that.
Agreed.
But this is a guitar solo. We understand when you're doing a song, you're doing the solo for the song.
Right.
But I guess, and let's think about this a second. A lot of people, I don't know, do they like guitar solos? Do they like drum solos?
Probably not.
So if you're going to make the solo interesting for people, maybe their thought is like, well, at least if you do the signature Ace thing, it's kind of a tribute to him.
That's, exactly.
That's what I think. And if that's part of the reason, I'm happy about that, because we all know how they feel about those guys sometimes. And so the fact that, Ace gets a tip of the nod or tip of the hat, now, rethinking about it, I understand that and I could appreciate that. But I honestly, it's not something that I quite honestly enjoy listening to, being that it's Tommy Thayer.
I told you that night, that's the 30 seconds of the whole concert. If I could cut out anything, it would be that. It just rubs me the wrong way. And I have zero problem. I love Tommy in the band. Tommy's the right guy for the band. I'm glad he's in the band. That 30 seconds, it's not necessary to me.
I'm glad he's not working on the docks anymore. We're all happy that he's there. Yeah.
Exactly. So you mentioned before you wish Say Yeah was out of the set list. I have no problem with Say Yeah being in the set list. I actually like that it's in there. I think it's if you're going to do a new song from the last 10 years, it's the perfect song because it's easily memorable. You can have fans sing along, say, yeah. It's easy enough to sing along to, right? There's songs I think that are better on the last 2 albums, especially Monster. And my feelings about that. But if you want to have an unknown song for fans in the crowd from the new albums, it's the right one. So I have no problem. God damn, if I ever hear Cold Gin again in concert again, I wish that song, I always say, boring.
Yeah.
And at one point we were
Hold on.
Go ahead.
It's Cold Gin. Boom.
Yes.
Come on.
Yes, I did enjoy all of Gene's bass slides. Yes. Agreed.
We love that part of it.
Yes, yes. Anytime Gene adds all those bass slides like that,
yeah,
it took a boring song into something that I did enjoy more. And he did a lot of bass slides that night.
And
so
we always smile when he does it. So
yes.
you are enjoying that.
You know, that is a fair point. Fair point. I would still trade it out for "Come On and Love Me," "I Stole Your Love." But the problem is these are all Paul songs and not Gene songs, right? So
well, that's a good okay. Let's just quickly in our 1 minute say, if we're gonna take Cold Gin out, what Gene song, classic Gene song, do we throw in there instead?
So it's easy for me because I think my biggest disappointment that night was that they dropped "Parasite." Drop "Cold Gin" instead. That's easy.
Yeah.
Very easy for me. And I'd rather hear "Ladies Room," which I know is on Alive too. It's not maybe as much of a classic, but I'd rather hear "Ladies Room." But yeah, keep "Parasite" in there and get rid of "Cold Gin."
Yeah.
Just my opinion.
Okay.
So continue with the set list.
Oh, okay. I'm glad I gave myself this job.
I'm glad you did too.
Here's another one, "Tears Are Falling." I think you had commented on the way home, but we would love to hear "Who Wants to Be Lonely,"
you asked me what classic Kiss, what's the most classic Kiss song you think that was never performed in concert? And I said, "Who Wants to Be Lonely?" Because I don't want people to think, wait, you said you weren't talking about the concert, but now you are.
Okay, yeah, that's true.
We were talking about what classic Kiss songs have never been performed in concert. What was the most classic song? And I said, well, "Who Wants to Be Lonely" was a single, it was a video, but they never performed it. So that was why I said that. And I still stand by that. I wish they would perform that.
So I just brought that up because that's an Asylum song. And
yes.
And I understand why they do "Tears Are Falling." I don't have a problem hearing this song at all.
I actually love this song.
Yeah, it's joyous.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
What do we have next?
What came after?
"Psycho Circus."
For me, that's another one I don't mind if they cut. Now, this is the one, and I get they want to do something from the reunion era. This is the one they can cut for me, and bring any one of those Paul classics.
Would you rather have "You Wanted the Best"?
Oh, right. Let's not get crazy here. For me, I did not like what they did with "Psycho Circus" on this one, where they usually that breakdown part, I've been waiting here to be your guide. They cut that all out, and it went right into Eric Singer's drum solo. Definitely not Eric Carr's. Eric Singer's drum solo, and it just seemed awkward.
Why?
To me.
Yeah, why did they do that?
I don't know. And then
I was wondering because I looked at this. It says "Psycho Circus" partial. I'm like, what happened?
Yeah. They cut it right there. Look, again, I love that it was something different. I absolutely loved that it was something, but it felt a little awkward to me, like where they stuck that, especially when, if I remember right, the next song was "God of Thunder." Just put the solo then in "God of Thunder" if you want.
Right.
Yeah.
And, the reason why I grabbed this because it is fun the first bunch of times where you start to.
You should do a podcast like that now.
Yeah.
Work up a sweat.
If anybody doesn't know, it's, Eric Singer is just basically doing double bass, and he's, wiping the sweat if he even has any on there. I'm sure he does.
Sure.
It's kind of cute the first couple of times you see it, but as a guy who's seen it, or girl, if you're a girl, I'm just saying for me, again, drum solos. I'm a drummer. I could be like, okay, this could be, and I understand why they do it. They got to give Paul a rest. They got to give Gene a rest.
Yeah.
There's a lot of reason why people have done these solos for years. It's even what we talked about earlier. We Lick It Up. You extend that song, it lengthens the show.
Yep.
It's one less song that probably Paul has to sing or Gene has to sing. I understand why they do it.
Totally. Totally. Yeah. So coming out of the drum solo, though, then they went into 100,000 Years, just the ending part.
Egregious.
Egregious for what reason? This is what I said. I knew this was going to irk you. So what was egregious about it?
I love 100,000 Years.
I knew this.
And you basically, cut out 3/4 of it.
They cut out the whole song, and there was no
basically,
no verses, no chorus.
Does he start? Does he start with "I'm sorry to have taken so long"? Did he do that?
Oh,
sorry
did
to
they?
have taken so long.
You're right. It goes you're right. Yes, you're right. They did do that.
Yeah. And Mesa was just the whole solo thing. But that's one of my favorite parts of the show, and it's one of my favorite Kiss songs. And I was just thinking, whose bright idea was this? Not, So if that was the thing you were referring to earlier,
it was.
That was going to be upset. That was it.
it reminded me in 1985, right, when Kiss filmed the Analyze concert, and it wasn't out on VHS yet, and MTV did a 1-hour version of it. And what MTV did is they like cut obviously songs out, and they cut different. And I remember at one point they cut from Paul Stanley's solo to Gene Simmons' solo. Like literally, like Paul Stanley's on stage, he's doing like his little solo part, and then all of a sudden you see Gene just like standing there like. And I used to always think the first time I saw it on MTV, like, oh wow, Gene's actually watching Paul's solo, and then he started the bass solo. Little did I realize a few months later when the video came out, no, it's just butchered. They completely cut this. And I kind of felt like that with the Psycho Circus into 100,000 Years. It's like, wow, that's like a really poor edit on this concert. Like somebody just took out the last verse and a half of Psycho Circus and took out the first part of 100,000 Years and pasted them together. And that was a bad edit. That's what I felt like that night. You know?
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, yeah.
And to that point, thank God that Gene and Paul don't do solos anymore.
Yes. Oh, Gene does his solo, right? The Spin in Blood, but it's not just walking around. And the bass solo used to do.
I didn't know he was playing a tuba, but okay.
He was playing a tuba, actually. But, you know, I want to go back for a moment because you mentioned Tears Are Falling, and I'm actually so happy that that's back in the set list. It wasn't the first part of this tour. I love that song. You know, that night as I'm watching, I'm like, you know what? There's so many years removed from this song now. And in the 80s, I see them do it all the time. I kind of got a little tired of it. Now that it's back, I'm like, I think this is a classic. I really think Tears Are Falling is a classic Kiss song. I'm not going to say I like it as much as Strutter or I Stole Your Love, but it's that next tier right below that to me. I'm like, man, this is a damn good song. This is aged well for me. So I was actually thoroughly excited that was still in the set list that night. So I just wanted to add that.
Good ad.
Thank you. I'm glad you approve of that ad.
So as it's listed here, it says bass solo. I mean, it really wasn't a bass solo.
The blood solo.
Blood solo. Going into God of Thunder. And, you know, it's always fun seeing Gene go up on the thing is called?
On the pod.
The pod.
Well, speaking of pods, that's one of the things I noticed. The pods that they had on top of the stage, to me, did not look like, they had the 3 that they came down on, which, like you said at the beginning, never gets old. Gene went up and down on his for the blood, but the other ones seemed pretty much stationary for the night. I don't recall them like coming down, tilting out, like, and all of that. I pretty much think they were stationary.
Everything was compressed this way as far as the scale. And even I felt, although, because remember, for all the other shows, the piano comes from underneath the stage, and this one all of a sudden, well,
it was on like a remote control track of some sort.
We won't get to it yet, because we're not there in the set. But and even the side where the arms would go, they would pick them up and they would go off to the side and they go out this way, whatever. They just couldn't do it at this place. Right. Just you could tell the way it was. So but it was, you know, it's. God of Thunder to me is, would I want to hear another Kiss song? Of course, you know, I would want to hear something else but I understand, again, when they do it, it's just like a classic Gene song. He does that whole demon thing, and they have that whole, I am the Lord of the Way. They got that cool video in the back, which is really awesome. On the screens, which is really nice. So
yeah, see, I like it still in the set list. I think it just fits with the blood. I know you and I joked that night as he's spitting blood. I turned to you and said, he's going to go into Unholy next, and which we knew wasn't going to happen, obviously. And I told you they did that, you know, for a tour in 2004. But I like God of Thunder. It so fits his persona. It so fits that whole moment of the show. In a lot of ways, it's a highlight probably of the show for many people. So I have no problem with it still being in the set list. I liked it, and I thought it was a good performance that night.
I agree.
So then after that's when Deuce came in.
That's when Deuce came in.
Yeah. So look, and we said it before, but it's not a good spot, but it was kind of cool not knowing, like, all right, I remember that night, I was like, oh, they haven't done Deuce. They cut out 100,000 Years. And so it was kind of cool. Like, here we are more than halfway through the show, and I'm hearing Deuce now, you know, because to me, that's one of my top 3 Kiss songs. So as much as it's a weird spot, I actually liked in some ways where it was.
Yeah, the thing was I noticed about Deuce is while they were playing it, I kind of looked around and the crowd was relatively idle, I felt.
Yeah, I noticed that too. Yeah.
You know, like there wasn't people like,
Mm-hmm.
I remember like when they would open with that back in the day, the energy with that song. And then I made a comment later on, which we'll get to, but I felt like the crowd was kind of flat on that. Even hearing the singing, I looked around to see, not to say that there wasn't diehard Kiss fans there, because I believe there was a lot of them.
Yeah, agreed. Mm-hmm.
But was that placement of the song? Was it, I don't know. I don't know what it was, but I found that to be a little odd.
Maybe coming off of the high of the Gene Blood and God of Thunder. Maybe. I don't know. I'm speculating here. I have no idea. Because I did notice, I look around, and I do that a lot of times during the concert, and I watch back some of my video. And like you said, I think there's a lot of fans very into the show, a lot of diehard fans. I remember my Detroit Rock City video. You could actually hear the crowd singing along with him, which in fact, I remember it that night. And you always talk about this, having been on the one cruise with me. A lot of cruises, they sing the guitar solo of Detroit Rock City also. And I remember that night as we're watching them, and I could hear people singing around me. I'm like, well, it'd be pretty freaking cool for the first time seeing them in America like this if people started singing the solo, which didn't happen. But the point being, people were definitely very into it, knew the songs and singing along. But yeah, I agree with you. Deuce didn't seem to have that same vibe for whatever reason. As much as to me, I still love it. So glad it remained. I was like, oh, please don't have cut that out of the set list. Please don't have cut it out. So when they finally started performing, I'm like, oh, good, it's still there.
Yeah, yeah. And then from that point forward is when, Paul does his usual routine of, I want to go out there, invite me out there.
Right. I don't want to be an uninvited guest.
Yeah, right. Give me 3 chances, say my name. And, and then he eventually goes out there.
Yeah.
And they've been doing this. They've been doing Love Gun.
Mm-hmm.
And, that was a song that from Love Gun.
Yes.
Deuce to Love Gun, you heard the crowd.
Yep.
Totally into Love Gun.
Agreed.
Singing it. That's when I was like, okay, it was even more glaring.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, they go into I Was Made for Loving You. Yep. And that's when I made the,
You made a comment to you that night.
Yeah. I was like, wow. People were really into it, you know?
Yep.
And I think you had made the point that at that moment that it was a much bigger hit for them.
Right.
Exactly. Oh, it was a hit. It was a hit. Let's be fair. Not a much bigger hit. Deuce was never a single,
Right.
So
exactly true. And I think about like when I go with my wife and some of her friends, and we go as couples, the girls are always very excited about I Was Made for Loving You. Right? Yeah. It's a Paul song. It was a dance type song. So right off the top, if you figure there's 30%, 40% of the women of the crowd are women, you probably every one of them are now on their feet dancing and having a good time. Mm-hmm. Right. So and as much as it's a disco song, I just think it's a damn good song still. It holds Absolutely. Up. You hear it, and I'm like, yeah, this just holds up. I totally get why it's in the set list. It deserves to be in the set list. It should be in the set list. And I enjoyed hearing it still just as much now as I did in 1979 when I saw him for the first time.
Well, I agree with you, besides I didn't see them in 1979 part.
That's okay.
But I do enjoy listening to it.
And look, as much as I say, and we joked about this driving there, what would you do if they went into Miss the Speed, right? And we both said we'd be in our glory. But I get playing the songs that people want to hear, because to me, while I'm there, it's more exciting when I see the crowd reacting, like you said, the way they did during Love Gun, the way they did during I Was Made for Loving You, as opposed to the way they reacted during Deuce. To me, when you have that reaction around you, that's part of the live experience for me. So it makes me just, I hate to admit it, understand even more why, people say, all right, now play Love Gun, because that's what the fans there want to hear,
Right.
So, but I thought it's always fun. He flies out there. I know he's been doing it for 20 years. It's still always fun to me. And it's always, I said this to you that night, there's no friggin' way I can do the Gene thing going up on the thing. I can't imagine me wearing those heels like Stanley does and flying, just holding on to a ring like that. I just can't imagine doing that.
Yeah. Well, I can't, I'm not doing either. I'm afraid of heights. Forget it. Ain't happening.
But now what about for his paycheck?
I would do it.
Okay, so you say you would do it.
Okay. I'd diaper up. Diaper up.
Oh, man. So, all right. So the 2 Stanley classics. And then after that is Black Diamond, I think.
Black Diamond.
Right. Never gets old.
Never gets old. But let me ask you this question.
Yes.
Who is the premier, or I should say premier, who is the focused performer in Kiss, right off the top of your head?
Stanley.
Okay.
For me.
Okay. So I thought about this afterwards. They close the show with a song that basically Eric Singer sings, Black Diamond. And spoiler alert, they closed the show Rock and Roll All Night.
What? Really? Oh my God.
So it's always interesting to me that, Paul is the guy, and for the end of the show and the encore, it's not a Paul song.
Yes.
And I understand why for the encore, because, Rock and Roll All Night. I mean, what else are you gonna do?
Yeah, of course. Exactly.
But I found that interesting.
Yep. It's been one of the gripes I've had about this tour, and you're kind of alluding to it right now. I think of the final show ever, and the last 4 Kiss songs are probably going to be Black Diamond, Beth, whatever they choose for the second to last song.
Hopefully it's not Do You Love Me?
And there goes my problem, right?
Yeah.
So imagine if, to me, the final song Paul Stanley ever performs and sings at a Kiss concert being Do You Love Me? There's just something very wrong about that to me. And that's not a judgment on good song, great song, bad song. If they want to put it 5th in the set list and it has to be there for whatever reason, okay, fine. That can't be the last Kiss song Paul Stanley sings in concert. It can't be. It can't be. I'm sorry, it can't be. Did I say it can't be?
Can it be?
No, it can't.
Canopy?
Canopy. Yeah, Canopy.
Canopy.
But anyway, going back to Black Diamond, I mean, he does obviously sing the beginning. We know that. And he does his little guitar stuff at the beginning. We know that. To me, I never tire of this song. And I was thinking about it that night as we're watching it. And I'm like, people talk about the song and it's a classic. I don't hear enough people talking about, and I know it was Tommy Thayer that night and in the band for 20 years, but that solo that Ace wrote for that song, the whole like outro part, like when they're doom, 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 and he's doing the solo.
Yeah.
It gives me chills. And I got chills that night. I get chills almost talking about it that night. That might be the best 1 minute of a Kiss concert every night to me. It's just that whole part to me is just incredible. Absolutely. I love that whole musical part.
Yeah, it's great. It's absolutely great.
Yeah, and I love what they've added in recent years when they all like freeze and there's the white light on them and they're all like frozen for a few seconds. It's just like a cool effect to me. It's nothing, fancy, but it's just so cool. And coming off that whole section, for me, hands down, like I said, probably my favorite moment of every Kiss show. And having not seen a Kiss concert for 17 months, they're doing that, and I'm just getting chills that night. I'm like, this is what being at a Kiss concert's all about to me. The drums going up, they got the fireworks at the end of that. I'm just like, this is what it's about. This is what it's about. So anyway, my 2 thoughts on that.
I agree. And then they'll leave the stage. I don't even think they say goodnight, right? They just leave.
Yeah, I don't remember if Stanley said goodnight or not. I mean, I knew it was going to be goodnight, so I don't really pay that any attention.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, I don't remember either. I'm going to guess he did, but I don't remember it.
Yeah, I don't remember it. Yeah. And then you have the anticipation, and they come back. And so how do you feel about Beth being in the first encore song?
Again, I looked around that night, and you can see a lot of people into it, and light is up, and singing along. We were doing, and one of our games driving home, you were having me guess what song it was that charted at a certain point. And, like, oh, this song charted at number 39 on the Billboard charts. I'm like, oh, that's Rocket Ride, So
you were pretty good at that, I gotta say.
and you were asking me like which Kiss songs charted highest. And obviously, Beth is one of their biggest singles of their career. I get they're going to do it. It's almost like, how could you not? So I don't necessarily have a problem with it. It belongs, if it's going to be in the set list, it belongs as a first encore. It's just the perfect spot for it. I really don't have a problem with it. Bringing the piano out is a little bit after seeing it 13 times. Like, okay, I've been here, seen this, but I remember that probably 95% of the people in that audience have not seen them 13 times on this tour, and for them it was probably cool. So I think it's a cool moment. And we were talking before about how the piano didn't raise from the bottom of the stage. They couldn't on this show, right? Because of the way the stage is built. And I noticed on some of my pictures I took that night, it was actually off on the side of the stage the whole time, covered.
Oh, okay.
Like a black cloth. So they had it on the side of the stage. They're just covered. You could see it, but you didn't know that that's what it was, or at least I didn't pay any attention until I looked at my photos afterwards. But it was interesting how, like I said, it was on a track. There wasn't a track on the stage. It was almost like this. Somebody was like sitting there with a joystick. I was joking around. Somebody had the joystick, and I said they're going to crash into Eric Carr. Why do I keep saying Eric Carr? Wow, I have Eric Carr in my mind. They're going to crash it into Eric Singer's drum set or whatever. So it was kind of interesting just seeing it like moving around on stage with nobody wheeling it. I don't know
why. They should have done it while Eric was playing it.
They should have.
Beth, I know you're lonely.
That's right. And then you know how Paul and Tommy and Gene come out and they like all stand around the piano. They all start like running after it. That would have been funny. But no. So the way you asked me though, it sounds like you've had enough of that. The piano and the Beth and all. No, okay. I wasn't sure what you thought.
No. Feels a little bit more sacrilegious though when they do it. I don't know now when I see it.
Yeah, you know, I understand, and some people it drives them crazy. And the three of them coming around, standing around the piano is, you know, the way they did it on the Paul Lynde show, and people don't like that they did that. I don't mind. I really don't. It's not like when Tommy does that 30 seconds of Aces solo. For me, I know this is a Peter Criss song. I know he wrote it, helped write it supposedly before he was in Kiss. It's a Kiss song to me. You know, this is a Kiss song. If it wasn't a hit for Kiss, nobody in this world would have a clue that song, Beth or Beck or any other name it wanted to go by, right? So I have no problem with Kiss doing it. I really don't. Just me.
I don't know if I have a problem with them doing it. It's like, you know, we talked about this in the past when they first put on the makeup. Eric put on the makeup of Tommy. You were adamant, like, oh no, I get no.
Yep, I was out for a year.
You know, yeah. Was it more than a year? Wasn't it?
Yeah, maybe a couple of years actually.
Yeah. I don't know. It just seems a little bit more magnifying at that moment. I don't know. I'm not saying listen, let me be straight here. I'm not saying that I have a problem with it or I didn't enjoy it. I just kind of, when I think about it, I'm like, I don't know how I feel, but I still enjoyed listening to it. Let me be honest. You know,
it's not like they did That's the Kind of Sugar Papa Likes. That I'd have a problem with.
I wouldn't.
Oh man,
you wouldn't either. You know you wouldn't.
Yeah, you might be right. I probably wouldn't. But
first time hearing that live, you were like, oh my God, I can't believe they did that.
So let me say it this way. If it was Baby Driver, I definitely wouldn't have a problem with it.
Oh, yeah.
A song from Peter Criss's 78 solo album, I think that's tacky.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, if it was Baby Driver, I'd be like, oh, this is cool.
Yeah.
I've never heard them do this before. But That's the Kind of Sugar Papa Likes. Nah, you shouldn't be touching Peter Criss's 78 solo album. And they're not going to, so don't worry.
Right. That's not gonna happen.
Exactly. So all right. So then after that, they went into Do You Love Me? To me, probably the one disappointment of the night. And I actually, before they did it, I said, would you rather hear Crazy Nights or Do You Love Me? And I think you said Crazy Nights, right? And to me, I would have much rather
such a better encore song if you just think of the title.
I agree.
Do You Love Me is like just a flatter kind of, you know, do you love me? You know, it's got like a more, you know, peppy, upbeat tune, party, crazy nights.
I agree.
Now, look, maybe it's a vocal. It's easier for Paul to handle at this point. I don't know.
I don't know what it is, but that's the one song I'm like, yeah, I get that. And like I said, I was hoping for Strutter to be in that spot after all of this. And if it was, and if that was the final song Stanley ever sang live in a Kiss concert, I'm totally good with that. And when Stanley starts introducing it, he's like, you know, so this one, he referenced Kiss Alive. And I was like, ooh. I turned to him, I said, Do You Love Me is not on Kiss Alive. And he's like, and this comes from the album after. I was like, God damn. I'm like, that's Destroyer. It's like, there's a lot of songs on that one. It says Detroit Rock City. It has King of the Nighttime World. And I'm like, yes, King of the Nighttime World would be good. And then he keeps going. I'm like, boo.
Yeah.
But hey, whatever. I guess he can't please everybody. So that's of the whole set list, that song's probably the one more than anything that I'd say, get it out of there. You know? Maybe even more than the Boring Cold Gin.
I agree.
And yes, that is the official title of it, the Boring Cold Gin. Because I get why Cold Gin's in the set list. I get it. Right? That's just a personal thing for me. But Do You Love Me does not need to be in the set list. Nobody would have gone home that night saying, gee, I can't believe they didn't play Do You Love Me.
There would be somebody.
Yeah, who?
I don't know.
I want you to interview every single person coming out of the arena next time.
Let me get back. Let me go back to that parking lot.
Please go back and say, excuse me, what would have been your thoughts if they didn't do You Love Me?
Yeah.
So, all right. And then it obviously turns after that to the Rock and Roll National Anthem. And I know I hear people complain about them doing that song or whatever. Shut up. You got to do that song. You've got to do, it's the perfect closer. It's the party song, the confetti and all of that. And it's the perfect way to me to always end a Kiss concert. Always. No ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't get upset when I hear it on the cruise where I go for deep cuts. They close with Rock and Roll All Night and I still enjoy it just as much. I will enjoy that song every time till the day I die. Now, full disclosure, you and I did start to the departure process during the song, right?
So let's stop right there because I wanted to talk about this early because this is just the classic interaction that you and I have.
Yes.
So getting back to the earlier thing where you're, scoping out the joint, you know what I mean? And I'm like, I think we should go this way because the IC like, go this way.
I instantly shoot you down. No, we're not going that way.
Yeah, you go this way because we're gonna do a little bit of a brisk walk, and we're still gonna hear more of the song as we go out this way.
Not just hear it, but see it.
Hear and see, right?
Hear and see. That was the key part to me.
All right, you sure? Yeah. So of course I'm busting your chops here, so I said, how confident from 1 to 10 that we're gonna be able to get out of this place? Not that we want to leave the show. But we don't. Again, the ride home, and we don't want it because the woman said it's horrific getting out of there.
We have a 3 to 4 hour drive home, the both of us. Right. And I have to be in work on a call at 8 a.m. the next morning.
Right. So I think originally you give me a 1. You said from 1 to 10, you gave me a 1. I'm like, that's how confident you were.
Right.
And then
10 being the most scared, 0 being not scared at all. I said I was a 1.
Right. So the show would go on, and I'm not me busting your chops. I said, how you feeling about it? And you're like, then you go 0.5. I'm like, whoa.
Right, 0.5, exactly.
Yeah, 0.5. And then I think we talk a little bit about, and then I think you went back to a 1. I'm like, why did that change?
Right.
Why did we shit,
Right. Well, I saw some other people leaving after Black Diamond.
Right. That's what it was. Yeah.
Right. We saw a bunch of people leaving after Black Diamond, and I was like, all right. So I'm going to go to a nice even 1, but I'm still not nervous, but I'm surprised because there had to be a few hundred people leaving after Black Diamond, which surprised me.
Yeah.
But those are probably the people that didn't care if they heard "Do You Love Me." Sorry.
Right. So we pretty much heard the entire song.
Yeah.
And I think from the moment we got up to start walking to the point where we made that right turn out completely, 5 minutes,
probably
6 minutes, Edmund.
Yeah.
I mean, we got out from
I'll say this first. Where the seating was and all of that, we heard both verses and saw both verses, both choruses. We heard and saw Tommy's solo, and then it started with everybody say yeah, and it was at that point we started to make the turn out of the shed, and we couldn't see the band. We still hear him, but we couldn't see the band anymore.
We're gonna get so much heat for this.
Oh my God! People are gonna be like, "How could you do that?" Well, you know what? I drove 7-8 hours round trip in one day. So most people say, "How could you do that?"
Thank you for that.
And you did that as well, right? So this is the give and take on a work night for us. If it was a Friday night, I would have said, whatever, who cares?
Yeah.
I had to miss the last 90 seconds of Rock and Roll All Night for the 13th time that I've seen him on this tour. The biggest disappointment for me is that I didn't get the picture at the end that said, "Thank you, Mansfield," since I'd never been there before. I would have liked to get that, but not at the expense. We know somebody who was at the show, my buddy Mike. I won't say his last name just in case he did. He got home at 7 a.m. the next day.
What?
Yes.
I did see his post.
Yes. 7 a.m. the next day.
And he lives in Jersey, right?
Yes, correct.
Which is close.
A little further, maybe like another hour, I would think, maybe.
No, because, well, it depends, because I went through Jersey on the way there.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So let's call it a wash. 7 a.m.
Did he say it was just like terrible getting out of it? I mean, obviously.
I didn't ask him yet, but obviously it must have been terrible to get out of there. Then there was some kind of like hurricane warning or something, and people had to pull over on the road or whatever. So point being, to miss the last 90 seconds of Rock and Roll All Night, I got home at 2:30 instead of 7 a.m. It's a no-brainer for me.
Yeah.
No-brainer.
I got home 20 minutes later than you.
Yeah.
And I was very happy. And as a matter of fact, it did start to rain. I'm like, why?
Yes, started to rain a little bit.
But I'm glad we didn't get caught in a potential hurricane, whatever.
Or in a mosh.
In a mosh. Even more so,
That's right.
Yeah.
So look, that we went through the whole set list, gave our thoughts. We spoke about before the show. We didn't expect really any changes, right? So your overall, I think beforehand we were both like on a scale of 0 to 10. Our excitement was like an 8, 8.5, like in that range. How happy were you to go? What was it like being back after a year and a half at a concert and all of that?
You want a rating? You want a
Yeah,
number?
yeah. Give me your. Beforehand, you were excited, like an 8.5. After the show, how did you feel?
Yeah, pretty much about the same.
Yeah.
Look, I had seen them a bunch of times. If that was the first band, that maybe the rating would be a little bit high, but 8.5 is pretty damn high. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
We have a couple of qualms with the set list, and a couple they cut this song short that shaves a little bit off. For my rating, but overall, I didn't regret not $1 I put towards that gig and to that show. And again, I think I said it before the first taping of this. Got to see it while you can, because there's going to be one day we're going to be like, man, I wish I could go see Kiss again. And even if there are these little complaints, and they're small, minor little things, because we're Kiss fans and we're music fans.
Right, exactly.
But again, tell people if you're on the fence. I had a friend, I was working with somebody today, and he's like, I don't know. How were they? I don't want to. I was like, you should just go.
Yes, agreed.
Just go, because there's going to be one day you're going to regret it. I'm telling you. Because think about, we were talking about, I think before, of artists who are either no longer with us, or even like you have a regret of not seeing the Police. We don't know if they're ever going to reunite again. You know?
Agreed. Yeah.
Me too. Remember you were trying on one of our games, like you were trying to top the Police, like
yes, exactly.
What was it? What band between this
between
era,
band A and B? Which band do you like better? And when I threw the Police out there, you were like, "That's going to be a tough one to beat."
From 77 to 83. And not including Kiss, because obviously they started. And but finally, you got me with Van Halen. I think that's the one.
That's the one that topped the Police for you. Yep.
Right. Yeah. But yeah. I highly recommend going to see them. It's a great night out. And I was telling my buddy too today, I watch it from this perspective. Did this ever exist before Kiss? Whether it's the fire breathing, whether it's the blood, or Alice Cooper obviously had a lot of different crazy stuff that he would do. But they were pioneers in live performance, and they took things to many other levels. So when you watch this, you take a lot of this stuff for granted for other bands you see in big shows. But watch it in the sense that like these guys were the first ones to do a lot of this stuff.
Agreed.
To me, that gives even more weight to what you're saying, what you're seeing.
Agreed. So. Agreed. And you said they're not going to be around for much longer, and I'm going to add to that. We don't even know how long this leg of the tour will last.
Well, when I said not even, I'm not predicting that.
Just as tour. Just as a tour.
Not predicting death for anybody. No. I want to be very clear.
No, but saying that, we did say that night that Gene's approaching 72 years old.
Yeah.
And look, there's no guarantee for any of us, right? So you don't know. But the point is, they're certainly not getting any younger. They're not going to be around much longer as a touring entity. And even this leg of the tour, look, you pick up, your phone and you look on the internet, every day there's another tour being canceled because of COVID still, and all it takes is one person on the crew to get COVID. And now you're going to have a couple of weeks worth of shows canceled. Maybe they decide it's not worth it. They pull it off the road. Who knows, right?
Yeah.
So that was part of the reason for me to say, let's do the 4-hour drive, because there's no guarantee that 2 weeks from now that this tour will still be going on. We don't know. We don't know at this point. So even more so, if you have the opportunity to go, do it now, because it may be too late in 3 years or 5 years from now. I thought I'd have X number of chances to see the Ramones, and I live in New York, and how I never saw the Ramones blows my mind, right? It was one of my favorite bands at one point. Who knew in 1995, 1996, that would be it. They'd never play, half of them would pass away, or more than half of them would pass away, and there'd never be another opportunity. And I always say that I'm not going to make that mistake again. So yeah, I've seen Kiss 13 times on this tour, because to me, this is it. After this tour, it's going to be over. Don't miss out on the chance. It's a great night. It's a lot of fun. We spoke about the interaction with some of the people in the crowd, people singing, dancing, having a good time. It's a friggin' good time. Just go.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 1,000%.
Yeah, 100,000%.
Ooh, like that. Good one.
Even if it wasn't in the set list. So, anything else from the show that night that you could think of that we haven't spoke about?
Oh, one other thing I thought of during the show that kind of surprised me.
Yeah.
Again, I know that Gene Simmons is coming out with a signature bass from Gibson. I don't know if you know
yeah.
about that.
Yeah, I've read about it. I don't keep
Yeah, I was
close
kind of
tabs on it.
sort of hoping to see that, maybe it's just not ready yet. I don't know, but
Right.
he did his usual. He had his Punisher bass.
Mm-hmm.
He had his Axe bass. I was kind of hoping to see, maybe something a little different, like
Right.
come up with it's actually based on a Firebird.
Okay.
Firebird or Thunderbird? Firebird, I believe. Firebird.
Okay.
Yeah. That shape and that design. But yeah, I was kind of hoping to see his new bass.
Okay. Well, then that's just an excuse to go again.
Exactly.
Just another excuse to go again. Look, like I said, this is my 13th show on this tour. I'm figuring I'm going to hit somewhere between 15 and 20 before the tour is over. I'm not sure how many more shows there'll be, how many more legs they're going to be. You can be sure if it's an official last show, I'm going to be at it. If there's anything in close enough vicinity to the house, I'm going to go again. Even if the set list doesn't change, even if they don't add Strutter, I'm still going to go because it's still, for my money, some of the best 2 hours of any given time. And it was kind of nice to be back after a year and a half of not having shows and not seeing them tour. And it makes me sometimes think, wow, the last year and a half when they weren't touring, that's what it's going to be like maybe 5 years from now, permanently.
Yep. At the very least, for me, from the moment the show starts, it takes me back from the first moment I remember seeing my cousin with the live open with 2 pencils playing it like a drum set. And I didn't know who Kiss was.
Yep.
It's always going to bring you back to that point, to that first time you heard the band, or you heard about the band, or you saw the band, or whatever it was.
Yep. And to me, there's still nothing that tops that opening of them coming down.
No.
The whole opening is just perfect. That in and of itself is just worth it, the night out, just to see that in person. So if you're on the fence, get off the fence and go. I can't imagine after 2 years being on the fence still about it. But hey, everybody's got their own opinions. I respect that. But I'm glad I went. That's all I know. I'm glad I went.
Same here.
Alrighty. On that note, my friends, we'll have to figure out the next one we're going to hit. We'll have to think of some more games to do in the car ride for us. I wasn't sure, honestly, having not spoke about it in the car ride. I'm like, they didn't do 100,000 years. Is he going to be that disappointed that he would say, I regret going? I wasn't sure, to be honest with you. Because I knew if you were listing the 20 some odd songs they do, I figured that would be number 1 or number 2 on your list. I'm like, the fact they cut that, I wonder how disappointing that was to you. So I'm glad we didn't talk about this first, because I was coming in here expecting you to be like, damn, that was disappointing, except for being with you, Mike, which I know is always a great thing.
It's a treat.
It's always a treat. That's right.
By the way, just for the record, I've never seen somebody consume a bag of gummy bears like you did in the car right there.
That's true. Oh, that is true. Yes, I am the gummy bear monster. But I did not dip into the potato chips at all.
True, but let's just talk from
and I didn't drink my soda either.
Right, but to further, like the gummy bear texture, chewing that chips are much easier to pop. You were like a. That's literally. I felt like I saw you eat gummy bears. Yes. Very impressive, my friend.
Thank you. Gummy bears is a weak point for me. Any small little candies like that is a weak point for me. Look, there's a reason I've gained 50 pounds in the last 4 years, right? Gummy bears might be one of them. So.
I was talking to my buddy Matt. I said, I don't know how it came up. We were talking about snacks or whatever. I said, my friend ate a whole bag of gummy bears. He goes, dude, you know how much sugar that is? I said, yeah. That's why I just said he ate a whole bag of gummy bears.
Time out. If you remember, your bag, the sour gummy bears that you bought, was a bigger bag than mine.
That's true, because mine was resealable. Mine was resealable because they think you're not going to eat this all in one shot.
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean? And I barely could, I think I did 8, 9, or 10 at once, and I was just like, okay, this is enough.
Right. So mine was not the resealable. It was not, you expected to eat it in one sitting, perhaps with a friend, but it was not meant to be saved and reused in multiple sittings, right? So I just, for the record, I wanted to be known that my bag was smaller than yours.
All right.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Still ate a lot of gummy bears. I was still the gummy bear monster, but
you were.
I just wanted to be known that it was the small bag, not the big bag. Okay.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, that was fun. It was a fun day. Also hanging, going to lunch, going to dinner. It's always a good time. And to me, that's part of fun of doing these things also, is just getting to hang with friends, seeing people that you know at the shows or whatever. That to me is part of fun these days. So I'm glad we did it. And I'll have to go look at the tour schedule and figure out, maybe we could drive to like Nebraska next week or something.
Yeah. Hey, I've never been there.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. So, all right, Nebraska it is next week.
Yeah. All right.
All righty. Well, everybody, thanks for watching. Let us know if you're going to be going to any of the shows coming up, what you think, about the set lists. I expect people to have some opinions, but, we're curious to see what shows you're going to be going to in the near future. And, let us, you love that word future. I'll get you every time with that. Right? Oh man, that's great. One of the days we'll share the story.
People don't even know why.
One day we'll share the story about why the word future is so funny to you and me. But let us know what shows you're going to see the days after today. How about that? I'll use different words. And thank you everybody for watching, and we'll talk to you soon. Later, everybody.
Later.
Alrighty, there you have it. We'd like to hear your thoughts and your comments on what you think about KISS returning to touring in the year 2021. How long do you think the tour is going to last until maybe it'll be shut down due to the pandemic? And what did you think about the changes in the set list? We look forward to hearing your comments and your thoughts. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button below. If you're listening to one of my podcasts, subscribe over there as well. Also, head on over to Facebook and follow my page, The Rock Experience with Mike Brunn, where each and every day we talk about all the rock and roll music that you love. You can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter as well. That's it for this episode. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you all next time.